Greetings, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Monday through Friday. My name is Jacee. On today's episode, I've put together a couple of ideas on policies that Democrats should be campaigning on, should be running on, if they're looking to actually get the votes necessary to once again be put into power. Democrats in this country keep trying to court the right, court conservatives. Like, hey, what if we said this? Or what if we did this? We don't actually care about minorities or marginalized groups. That's the wrong response. I'm going to read this script here. I've got some points on what I think all Democrats should be running on, policies that all Democrats should be implementing if they're wanting to build a voter base and have strong support. And then I've got two items that I would like to personally see Democrats dip their toes into. I don't have the biggest hope for those two items, but we're going to save my personal wish list to the end of this video. It is a fact that Democrats who try to appeal to conservative voters very seldom win. If a red state voter has a choice between a Republican light Democrat or a full-blown, loud and proud, hardline Republican, guess who they're going to vote for? The Republican light candidate comes off as insincere to voters on the right. Like they're just trying to say the right thing. They're just trying to say the thing for you to vote for them. Meanwhile, they are also weakening the progressive stance of the left simultaneously. They are pushing the goalpost further away and making it harder for other Democrats to get progressive issues passed. If you keep catering to the right, people on the right aren't going to want to vote for you, and you're abandoning your entire voter base on the left. Instead of kowtowing to white Christian fundamentalist, patriarchal nationalism through means of using slurs or alienating marginalized groups or promoting violence against people across seas, Democrats should move further left on the political scale, instead of inching further and further right or riding the fence as a so-called moderate. Here are some suggestions for policies that Democrats should campaign on. Number 1, complete bodily autonomy. Complete bodily autonomy. Abortion, gender expression. Roll these hot button issues into one cohesive category. Don't break them up into, well, I agree with abortion, but I don't agree with this. No. Bunch them together. Label it complete bodily autonomy. A person's right to choose for themselves should be codified into law. The government should make no objection or infringement to an individual's personal medical decisions about their own body. It couldn't be any more black and white. That needs to be another amendment on the Constitution. Bodily autonomy. No one else gets to decide for you. The next item, a 5-year freeze on rent hikes. For 5 years after implemented, no state, no province, no township shall raise the price on rent or property tax. The people need a break. Minimum wage and basic income has not been scaling with the housing market. It just hasn't. Since the 1970s, wages have stagnated, but the price of housing in this country has skyrocketed and continues to. The people would benefit a whole lot from a 5-year freeze on rent increase. People would flock to Democrats if they propose this. The important thing is that they follow up with it. But if they were like, no, this is one of our issues, we are going to do a 5-year freeze, you would see people from both sides flocking to the Democrats. Third, separation of church and state. Quoting the Bible or referring to Scripture should have no place in conducting of political business or construction of law. Name-dropping a religious figure from thousands of years ago does not make your argument more pertinent to the current state of the world nor the people living in it. What if the leaders we elected claimed that one interpretation of the law was more perfect because it was written on a typewriter rather than a computer? Does that seem kind of silly? Seems silly to me. Just like the rule of decorum in a hearing of Congress asks that all parties refrain from individual slander or personal attacks, bringing up religious interpretation should be met with objection. And if an official continues to break this decorum after being sufficiently warned, they should have their words stricken from the record and no longer be allowed to speak during that hearing. If you've been warned multiple times to quit quoting the Bible and you continue to do so, they should cut your mic and your word should be stricken. At least for that session. And no, that's not an attack on Christianity, although Christians like to feel like they're persecuted. They're the only ones bringing up their holy book. When's the last time you heard of a political official be like, but in the Torah, or it says clearly here in the Quran, bringing up the Bible or bringing up a quote by Jesus does not make your argument more valid. The law makes your argument valid. You can believe what you want to believe, but that should not affect how we govern people. Scream. All right, I'm kind of proud of this. I have 2 items that are on my personal wish list for policies that Democrats should campaign on. This is my belief, and I don't see Democrats actually doing this, although it would be awesome if they did. Number 1, on the topic of job creation and creating a new market, legalize sex work. Hold on to your comments. Hear me out. Not only would legalized sex work benefit millions of Americans who already turn to such forms of labor for income due to disabilities, due to housing, or even enjoyment or talent, but opening this new field of employment would hold far greater opportunities for this country. We're talking job creation, redistribution of wealth towards the working class, and a destigmatization of sexuality. We live in a very puritanical society where the sheer mention of sex makes people blush or clam up or want to talk about something else. In many European countries and across Asia and Africa, sex is just viewed as another thing that humans do. It's a requirement. It's like eating, sleeping, drinking water, sex. It's just a part of life. It's how life is formed on this planet. So why all the stigma when it comes to sex? Destigmatization of sexuality. And I'm not talking about only the type of sex you have, be that hetero intercourse, homo intercourse, both at the same time, vanilla or kink, but people actually having dialogue about sexual health, how sex can improve fitness, how frequent sex can help regulate mood and reduce anxiety. Which brings me to my final reason why sex work should be made both safe and legal, allowing the men of this country access to express themselves sexually without stigma or shame or fear of incarceration would prevent so many unnecessary acts of violence. So many unnecessary acts of violence. This issue at its heart is about men's mental health. White men between the ages of 18 and 50 years old account for over 73% of gun violence in this country. Suicide is the #1 cause of death for the average American male in this country. by providing a safe and legal outlet for the sexual needs of men in this country. Domestic violence towards women would drop. Gun violence would drop. Sexual exploitation of children in this country would drop. And if we allow men to be themselves fully, without societal persecution, we may even see a reduction in homophobia and transphobia. Of course, people working in this field would have to be legal adults. In fact, I would say they would have to be 21 or older. They would also have to have medical care and monthly screenings. They would have to have somebody checking in on them to make sure that they are safe and they have no complaints, that they are not being threatened, nor had any violence enacted upon them. So there would be some level of oversight, but legalized sex work would be an improvement for the society, even if you just take it as an advantage for men's mental health. That in itself is worth doing it for. And then the other one, my final wish list issue, gun control. This topic may be more controversial than even legalized sex work. But I already feel like we have a model in this country that, if applied to gun control, would work perfectly. Here's the idea. In order to acquire a permit or renew a license to own or obtain a firearm, an individual must practice under a firearm safety instructor for no less than 6 months. Also, that individual must schedule for an appointment with their doctor or a licensed psychologist to be screened. After the 6-month training course, as well as obtaining a signature from both their instructor and a healthcare professional, they may apply with the state to receive the firearm ownership identification they desperately want. I think that's a good plan for gun control. Does that seem a little extreme to you? Someone who's wanting a FOID card has to go train with a firearms safety instructor for 6 months, half a year, and then they have to obtain a signature from a doctor or a licensed psychiatrist saying that this person is well enough to own a firearm. And by the way, they can pay for it out of pocket. If you really want it, you can pay for this out of pocket. You can go to the appointments, you can take time off work, you can travel to wherever these offices or clinics are. Does that seem too much? I'm sure a lot of you know where I'm going with this, but this is the same process that trans individuals are required to endure in order to obtain permission to receive sexual reassignment surgery. If you want bottom surgery in this country, as a trans person, you have to do that. You have to go see a psychiatrist or a therapist for 6 months. Then you have to go to your primary care physician and get a signature from both your primary care physician and a licensed psychologist saying that, yes, this person is fit enough to obtain the surgery that they want. And the doctor or the psychiatrist can, at any time, if it's against their beliefs, say, no, absolutely not. And you're paying for the visit, you're paying to travel to the appointment, you're taking the time off. It is up to 2 other professionals to decide whether or not you can do this for yourself. If you want a gun that badly, you should go through the same hoops that someone like me needs to go through in order to have my penis cut open and flipped inside out. Fair is fair, am I right? Thank you all very much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, you could do things like subscribe or click the like button. But what I'd really want you to do is to share this video with a Democrat running for your district. If you can, share this video with a Democrat who is running in your district. Let's see what they think. Thank you all very much for watching. Have a great week. Bye.